Clover Derby DE3 9GH was submitted to the licensing team on the 17th of September 2025. The proposed application relates to live and recorded music indoors, late night refreshment indoors and sale by retail of alcohol on and off the premises. Full details of the application, email correspondence for the change of name of the premises licence and plans can be found in Appendix 1. The applicant is represented by George Henshaw, who has agreed conditions with Environmental Protection and Derbyshire Police. Details of the agreed conditions can be found in Appendix 2. There are a total of 7 valid representations that have been received in relation to the 4 licensing objectives. Full details can be found in Appendix 3. An additional statement of supporting information has been submitted by Sarah Payne, who has made a valid representation. The options available today are to decide to either grant the application as per the application, modify the conditions of the licence or reject the whole or part of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this from the panel? I'll hand it over to the witnesses' representations on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the reason I'm here today is, and as I wrote in my submission to licensing, is just concerns around the opening hours and some of the hours around live and recorded music as well. So this this premises is in a building which already has an establishment in it which recently opened not long ago, and that's been welcomed in the community, and it's been a success so far in the community, which is great. This building is very close to a residential street. It basically sits on the end of a residential street, and this particular application in this premises, where the frontage of it is, and then the courtyard outside, which as I understand will be open to people to sit out and have a drink and things like that. Meters away from that particular area is residential houses. So there's a long row of terrace houses, their back gardens are there, and obviously the back of the gardens. So the application, as it went in with the proposed hours around opening and live music was, well, first and foremost, it was out of kilter with the other establishment that already exists in that building, and also other establishments of similar bars, pubs, etc., that are in the what we call the village area of Mickleover. So yeah, my concerns are just about trying to make sure that those opening hours are fair, both to the applicant and the premises that they're looking to open, but just as importantly to the residents that live literally next door to where this premises is going to be. So as an example, the other establishment in this building, Monday to Thursday, I believe its opening hours are until 11 p.m. on an evening, Monday to Thursday, and live and recorded music, I believe, in that particular establishment have to finish at 10:30. And I think this application is currently requesting later hours than that, and this sits closer to the residential properties than that other establishment. And similarly on the weekends, I think they've applied for a license to be open till 1 a.m. on Friday to Sunday, and I think live music until 12, I believe, till midnight Friday to Sunday, which again is out of kilter with other establishments in the area and out of kilter with the other establishment in that building. So for me, it's just about finding a middle ground here that works well for both the premises that they're looking to open and then also the residents who live on those streets directly opposite or outside where this establishment is going to exist. So yeah, those are my concerns. Those are my reasons for raising some objections to this this particular application. I just feel like the current proposed hours that have been requested are excessive for the area, and they can. I don't think it's a difficult ask to request that they at the least be brought in line with other establishments that exist in that building and the surrounding Mickleover village area. Because what ultimately, the residents that live next door and this establishment, they should be able to live, coexist, you know, in a positive way where they, you know, they both feel like things are working well. So I just think that, yeah, a change to the proposed requested hours will hopefully achieve that. And you've obviously had representations on other concerns from residents. It's not for me to speak directly of those. I'm just here today to just make my point around the applied hours for opening and live music. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Does anyone have any questions on this one? Okay, I'll hand it over to the applicant then, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is George Henshaw, and I'm acting on behalf of Shepherd Events Limited and applying for a new premises licence at 2 Station Road in Mickleover. The property comprises commercial space, part of the former Vinewood Studios, and is situated in the centre of Mickleover, in close proximity to Tesco and the BP petrol station, and is surrounded by other drinking establishments such as Brooks Deli, the Vine, the Hole in the Wall, and the Nad's Head. The closest residential dwellings are some 20 metres to the rear of the property on Warner Street. Application is made for the playing of live music indoors and the sale of alcohol off and on the premises between the hours of 10 a.m. and midnight on Mondays to Thursdays, 10 a.m. and 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, and 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. on Sundays. Application is also made for late night refreshment between the hours of 11 and midnight on Monday to Thursday, and 11 to 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. These hours have been requested by the applicant solely to mirror their other venue, which is the Spread Eagle in Etwall, which they've run successfully since the COVID-19 pandemic. Following a period of consultation, conditions have been agreed, and as a result, no responsible authority has made a representation to the proposal. The hearing has been convened following representations made by local residents and a neighbouring public house operator. Outside seating will be provided in the rear garden off Station Road, which borders the outside garden of the Vine Public House. The garden is not immediately adjacent to the residential properties. The property will be accessed by the public from Station Road and not from Warner Street. The applicants have invested a considerable sum of money and time in refurbishing the former Vinewood Studios retail premises, which have been vacant since 2023. And I'll turn now to the licensing objectives. So firstly, prevention of public nuisance. Staff will exercise zero tolerance in respect of rude and disruptive behaviour. Door staff will be employed during busy periods. The proposed hours are consistent with the other licensed premises in the locality, and conditions have been agreed with the Environmental Health Officer regarding disposal of waste and restrictions on opening windows. And secondly, turning to prevention of crime and disorder, CCTV will be installed internally and externally. Images will be maintained for 28 days. The site will operate a Challenge 25 age verification policy and will maintain a refusals register. All information retained will be presented upon request to an officer of the responsible authority. And as I say, conditions have been agreed with Derbyshire Constabulary as the expert authority regarding crime and disorder in the city. Thirdly, if we turn to public safety, a fire alarm system and emergency lighting will be installed. Staff will be given training in emergency evacuation procedures, and risk assessments will be carried out on a regular basis and monitored. And the fire service have been consulted, doing both the licensing and building regulations applications, and they have no objections to the fire strategy submitted. Fourthly, protection of children from harm. I've already talked about the Challenge 25 policy, but full training will be provided to staff on age-restricted products, and refresher training will be given at regular intervals. And I may turn now to representations made by local residents and the adjacent pub owner. They primarily relate to alleged incidents in the locality and fears that the cumulative impact of another licensed premises will have a detrimental impact on meeting the licensing objectives. And whilst cumulative impact can be considered by the committee, the Council's licensing policy states that a licence should not be refused unless there is a relevant representation from a responsible authority. The site is not subject to a cumulative impact policy, and no representations have been received from the responsible authorities. Other matters raised, such as highways, are not material issues for the licensing committee, and the City Council's Highways Department raised no objection to the planning application for the change of use. In conclusion, this proposal represents a strengthening of Mickleover as a district centre, with the introduction of a valued community venue by a respected and established operator. The proposal, alongside the agreed conditions, will result in a safe, legal and compliant operation in every respect. The proposed opening hours are consistent with the applicant's other premises and the nearby licensed premises. It is therefore requested that the committee resolve to grant the application. Thank you for your careful consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Henshaw. Any questions from the panel? Yeah, Councillor Bolton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Henshaw, for your presentation. I was enthused to hear your concerns regarding our 4 licensing objectives. I think you've covered all the areas I was going to question you on. But my main concern is the outside seating area. Looking at the plan that we have before us, obviously there will be people sitting outside near the homes of Warner Street. What will you do to ensure that the noise is kept to a minimum for those residents who have perhaps got young children, or late into the night when you people are outside? What will you do to ensure that the local area is not nuisanced and their quality of life is affected by the outdoor area?
It's probably best if you answer that, Han.
I don't think it's on the plan, Councillor Bolton. There's a cellar that's being built on the side towards the fence which goes onto Warner Street, which is going to create a barrier, or a sound barrier, in effect. Now, the seating area, yes. Unfortunately, it's not on there. However, there is being a wall, in effect, which will act as soundproof, which will help for the Warner Street residents. Staff will be trained. The live music, we have an application for live music and for the later hours, which is consistent with my other premises. However, we don't necessarily use it 7 days a week. It's the option for it to be there if needed. Staff we have in place already, which are staff that already have worked for me in my previous premises and my other events. They are all highly trained, and they'll be checking at certain times of night and a weekend that it's not going to be an effect for the residents. The building that's being erected, or the walls being erected, will help with soundproofing dramatically. It's not a fence, it's a wall. So,
If I can just add to that, if I may, the Vine Public House, which it immediately adjoins, would be it has later licensing hours than what we've asked for, or certainly consistent with. So in a sense, it's almost an extension to the Vine Beer Garden rather than a new premises. But as Alan says, I don't think it's going to be used late into the night that often.
And just as a follow-up, if I may, if there is an instance where there is live music and there are residents who are complaining, what action will you take?
So what we've agreed is that we will maintain a consistent dialogue with the residents on Warner Street and trying to allay any concerns they might have.
Just on that question, how would you maintain the dialogue?
So, I mean, obviously, I represented Brooks when they did their application, and certainly what Alan would try and do is mirror how they've maintained dialogue with Brooks, in that there is a consistent talking back and forth and trying to be settled into part of the community. All the managers at Brooks have reached out to the residents on Warner Street, so you've got that communication line there. It's not a case of having to walk around and complain if anything did happen. They've got that direct contact if they needed to, and I'm sure Alan would be happy to do that.
Councillor Kuss.
Thank you. Just following on with the dialogue, have you already established a dialogue with the community already? Have you had any engagement with the community and addressed any of their concerns?
If I may, although we have read all the objections and we've taken them into account, from our perspective, it didn't seem prudent at this point in time to reach out to the objectors. We have reached out to one objector, Lydia Clare. You may correct me if we've reached out to any more, but a lot of their concerns did relate to premises that weren't related to Alan's establishment. That seemed to be the crux of the matter for many objectors, so it didn't seem prudent to reach out to try and allay their concerns that were out of our control.
I have a few questions. Chair, you have, like Mr. Shepherd said, that the application is mirroring what's on the street and also with the other premises. But how much of the late opening of the premises, how much it will impact on the business? How much revenue or sales are you expecting to generate from that late opening of the premises?
Through my experience of the 2-3 miles down the road, Spread Eagle at Etwell, the drinking patterns have changed these days since COVID, and people do drink earlier rather than later. So if it's anything that our experience of the Spread Eagle at Etwell is by 11, 12 o'clock, people have actually gone home. However, what this does with the application, it gives us the opportunity to, for example, next year it's the World Cup. We don't know what time England are going to play. We don't know what time any match is going to be played, but we do know they're going to be later into the night. That this will give us the opportunity to actually not having to apply for a temporary events notice. And when it goes to the tournament, potentially for the quarterfinals and semi-finals, they come up very quickly, and potentially that could be later. England could not play, England could play. A temporary events notice will not fit the pub for showing the match, and people sitting there later.
Sorry, again, if I may add to that, Chair. One of the representations by Mr. Paul Harris, who's the owner of the hole in the wall, one of the adjacent licensed premises, tried to paint this venue as a late night music and entertainment venue, which I think is in the least is not how you intend to run it.
I don't think the representation can be either on the Facebook. What are you quoting this based on? Because we haven't had anything from Paul Harris.
It was a representation in the committee.
That should be. Do we accept representation from rivals?
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's valid in accordance with the Licensing Act. It covers the objectives. It's not vexatious or frivolous. No. Thank you.
Sorry, just coming back, Alan, as Mr. Shepherd, as you're the DPS for the premises, and it's been mentioned that you've been running other premises as well. Could you just give us a brief over the premises, and if you have been having any problems, because you said that you've been running similar sort of timings. So could you just tell us about that?
Just through my experience, Chair, it's not just the Spread Eagle at Etwell, I have another events business as well. So, for example, in Derbyshire, I'm the licensee for the UK's #1 heavy metal festival, which might have been some of the concerns the local residents seeing that when Bloodstock Open Air Festival, the licensee for that is moving up into the area, that there might have been some death metal being played, but it's not the case. So in the 5 years we've been at the Spread Eagle at Etwell, we have had 0 complaints, 0 police interaction. So we run a very tight, solid community pub, which we do a lot of work for the community, very supportive of sports, very supportive of local charities, and we aim to mirror that in Mickleover.
The question from witness, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It was just a point around some of the comments around mirroring the hours similar to other venues. Just to clarify, as I already stated when I gave my statement earlier, so there's already a venue in this building, and its hours Monday to Friday until 11, and I believe this applicant's applied for 12 o'clock, and then at the weekends their hours are until 12 o'clock, and I believe this applicant's applied for 1 a.m. So there is a discrepancy there, and that's my main point here, that you know, to have 2 premises in the same building, for me, I think it makes sense that they should have the same opening hours, taking into consideration the residents who live on Warner Street, and in particular consideration that this particular premises and this outside seating area is actually a lot closer to the rear gardens and properties on Warner Street. So just wanted to make that point of clarification, that there is a discrepancy in the hours as things currently stand through the application. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Patterson is quite right in that obviously Brooks has less hours licensed than what we are seeking. But my reference to other licensed premises was about the Vine and the Hole in the Wall and those pubs on the corner of Station Road to the rear. And if I may as well, is that I'm not going to speak obviously for the committee. You determined Brooks, but you do have not only Warner Street, but you do have properties opposite on Station Road, directly opposite Brooks, whereas that isn't the case here.
The question that's coming to me is that it's not like a town centre. Mickleover is like a Precinct High Street. So obviously, you're aiming for a late night crowd, and you're saying that you want to tap into World Cup games and all. And what I've understood that in general, you don't want to open that late. Am I right in saying that? That you don't want to use these timings on a regular basis?
No,
Yeah.
probably just rule out the facility and the
Okay.
option to use them in case we want to have it for.
So wouldn't it be better that with the what's the precedence for the timings? General convention that the pubs in residential area are open until 11 p.m. and then when you need it, you apply for temporary even notice.
The only concern with that would be for events that may potentially happen at short notice.
Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, we'll hand it over to licensing for summing up.
Thank you, Chair. The options available today are to decide to either grant the application as per the application, modify the conditions of the licence, or reject the whole or part of the application. Thank you.
For this, I will conclude the meeting. Thank you for everyone participating in today's meeting. The deliberations will take place now, and the decision would be led to the party by email. Susanna, what time scale are we working on? So, yeah, the meeting is now concluded. Thank you very much.
Thank you for attending.